Sit back and enjoy 2 hours of fascinating facts you didn't know. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Let's get started. The Ford Model T automobile, which sold more than 16 million units, was produced in its early years in different colors. But to increase production speed, starting in 1914, they only made them in black. It was years later that colors returned. This was done because black paint dried faster. The Alaska wood frog can go without going to the bathroom for almost 8 months. It does this as a form of hibernation. Microbes in its body purify everything it stores, which helps it survive even the coldest winters. A blue whale can consume up to 480 million calories of food in a single bite. They mainly eat small crustaceans, known as krill. In theory, humans could survive on a diet consisting only of potatoes and butter, but obviously, this is not recommended at all. Each person is only 0.1% genetically different from others, while all of us are 1.2% genetically different from our closest evolutionary relatives, chimpanzees. The largest anteaters can eat more than 35,000 ants and termites each day, and they do not even chew them. They have no teeth, so they simply absorb them like vacuum cleaners and digest them. The sun loses around 4 million tons of mass every second due to nuclear fusion. In this process, it converts hydrogen into helium and releases energy as light and heat. It does not recover that mass. It simply transforms it into energy, and at some point, it will run out. There are cheeses that are fermented using bacteria responsible for human body odor. That is why when people say there are cheeses that smell like feet, or the other way around, they are correct. Glass gem is a unique variety of corn, known for its kernels in many different colors, resembling a rainbow. The obesity problem of the population in recent years has caused the average size of crematory ovens to increase in order to accommodate larger coffins. Some funeral homes have had to adapt their facilities and equipment to handle wider and heavier caskets, reflecting physical changes in the population in different parts of the world. Your nails grow at a speed of approximately 0.04 nanometers per second. This equals roughly a few fractions of an inch per month, although the speed can vary depending on each person's age, diet, and health. In general, fingernails grow faster than toenails, and tend to grow even faster on the fingers that are used most often. Scientists still have not found an exact reason why we need to sleep and why we can die from lack of sleep. Although it is known that sleep helps consolidate memory, repair tissues, and regulate brain functions, there is still no single explanation that fully justifies it. Experiments with animals have shown that total sleep deprivation can cause severe metabolic failures and eventually death. Roger Frisch, a concert violinist, was awake when he underwent brain surgery to eliminate his tremors. His surgeons had a private concert during the operation while Frisch played the violin as the doctors worked on his brain. There is a hybrid of a knife and a fork called a nork. Great idea, not such a great name. This utensil combines serrated edges with prongs, allowing you to cut and spear food with one hand, making it practical in certain informal situations. If you have an injury to your hand or fingers and there is nerve damage, your fingers will not wrinkle when submerged in water. This is because wrinkling does not occur only from water absorption, but from a response controlled by the nervous system that constricts blood vessels. For this reason, this effect is sometimes used as a simple way to assess possible nerve damage. There are parts of the Atacama Desert in Chile that have not seen a drop of water since record-keeping began. This place is considered one of the driest on the planet, with areas where humidity is so low that it barely supports life. Its extreme conditions have been used by scientists as a model to study environments similar to Mars and to test space technology. Antarctica contains 90% of all the ice on the planet in an area that is just under 1.5 times the size of the United States. The amount of ice there is astonishing. In some parts, such as East Antarctica, the ice averages 1.2 miles thick. But despite its thick ice, Antarctica is classified as a desert because very little moisture falls from the sky each year. According to studies by paleontologists, the prehistoric bird Quetzalcoatlus, one of the largest flying animals that ever existed, could have had a flight range of approximately 10,560 miles without landing, which is almost half the circumference of the Earth. The human nose can distinguish more than 1 trillion different smells. 1 million has around 400 types of smell receptors that are connected to the nervous system and the brain. Some animals, such as dogs, can distinguish many more smells. Actress Rachel McAdams lied about being allergic to horsehair to get a role in the movie You Should Love. It was not until they were filming with horses that her face swelled up so much that she could not see. The average person yawns around 250,000 times throughout their life, and babies in the womb even do it as early as 12 or 14 weeks. Although its function is still not fully understood, yawning is believed to help regulate brain temperature and maintain alertness, in addition to being contagious in many social situations. The most important organisms in the world are marine algae because they produce between 70 and 80% of our oxygen. In reality, much of that oxygen comes from phytoplankton, a group of photosynthetic microorganisms that live in the oceans and also play a key role in regulating the climate by absorbing carbon dioxide. Their balance is essential for life on the planet. Facebook gives its employees 4 months of paid leave when their children are born. This parental leave policy applies to both mothers and fathers and is part of the employment benefits that many technology companies have adopted to attract and retain talent in the industry. The plastic or metal tip at the end of shoelaces is called an aglet. This term comes from the Latin ferrum, meaning iron, and a suffix indicating a diminutive form. Aglets make it easier to thread laces through eyelets and prevent them from fraying. Walking on burning coals does not actually require as much preparation as those who do it claim, since hot coals are not good conductors of heat and do not have enough time to transfer the temperature to the feet. Even so, it is something that should not be done without all proper safety measures. In 1994, Bill Gates bought Leonardo da Vinci's Codex Leicester notebook for $30.8 million. He did so not only to add it to his personal collection, but also to help promote the launch of Windows Vista by using a program called Turning the Pages 2.0, which allows people to browse through virtual versions of the notebook. Route 50 in the United States is also known as the loneliest road in America, due to the vast, desolate areas the road passes through. This nickname became popular in the 1980s after an article warned about its long stretches without services. It crosses several states, including deserts and mountains, offering remote and little-traveled landscapes. 20% of everything you eat is used to provide energy to the brain. Although the brain represents only a small fraction of body weight, it consumes a large amount of energy to keep neurons active and allow functions such as thinking, remembering, and controlling the body. Much of that energy comes from glucose circulating in the blood. The 17th century French philosopher René Descartes, famous for the phrase, "I think, therefore I am," believes that animals were not conscious beings nor capable of suffering. He considered them machines without souls. This led him to conduct cruel experiments, which even at that time caused significant controversy and harsh criticism. The first escalator was installed in 1898 in a store in London, England. Since people were afraid to use it, employees were placed at the top, handing out free product samples to encourage them to ride it. A creature called the Prasinohema skink lives on the island of New Guinea and has green blood, bones, and tissues. No other vertebrate is known to have green blood, and it is extremely toxic to humans. There is a charity called Food for the Poor that gives more than 95% of its income to the poor. Ironically, the name of its chief executive is Robin Mahfood. Makes sense. Like my food. Mahfood. Paraskevi decatriophobia is the fear of Friday the 13th. The term comes from Greek. Paraskevi means Friday, decatres means 13, and phobia means fear. This superstition is widespread in several Western countries and has led some buildings to omit the 13th floor or for some people to avoid traveling or carrying out important activities on that date. In the video game Half-Life 2 Episode 2, there is an achievement that, to unlock it, you must carry a garden gnome for almost the entire journey until the moment when there is a rocket launch and you must place it inside the spacecraft. This achievement requires so much patience that only a very small number of players in the world have managed to obtain it. There is a small military airline that operates at the Las Vegas airport and specializes in flying workers in and out of Area 51. The advertising agency FCB Brazil created a doll for Nivea that is made of ultraviolet sensitive material and turns a painful, bright red color if left in the sun. Applying sunscreen turns it white again. The doll was made to teach children the importance of using sunscreen. There is a popular tourist destination in Chongqing, China, where part of the pavement is dedicated to cell phone users who are too busy looking at their screens to bother watching where they are going. Right next to it, another section of the road completely prohibits cell phone use. I feel like we need this in North America. During the famous scene in which Gene Kelly dances in the rain in the movie Singin' in the Rain, the actor had a fever of more than 102 degrees. Although the director advised him to go home, Kelly insisted on filming. Water machines were used to create the rain effect on set. Since 1850, it is estimated that more than 5,000 people have fallen from Niagara Falls, and of these, only 17 have survived according to records, including a woman who went over the falls in a barrel and was unharmed. The tallest outdoor elevator in the world is the Bailong Elevator, also known as the 100 Dragons Elevator. It transports tourists 1,083 feet up the side of a massive sandstone pillar in a mountain range in China's Hunan province. It is so large that it can carry 50 people at a time. Around 70% of the world's spice production comes from a single country, India. This country cultivates a huge variety that includes pepper, turmeric, cardamom, and cloves, many of them with highly valued designations of origin. In addition, India not only leads in production, but also in domestic consumption, as spices are essential in its traditional cuisine and have been part of its trade history for centuries. The largest gathering of people with the same name took place in Dubai in 2005, when more than 1,000 people named Mohammed came together. The event was organized as part of a promotional campaign and brought together people with different variations of the same name, which is very common in the Muslim world. The gathering was recognized by Guinness World Records as the largest meeting of people with the same name. Due to a lack of audience interest, the 2025 movie Snow White is expected to have a final loss of approximately $115 million. Even adding digital sales and streaming rights, its production cost plus promotion totaled $410 million, making it one of the most expensive films. The longest walk ever completed was made by George Megan, who walked from the south of South America to the north of North America. It was 41 million steps. He had to use 13 pairs of shoes, and in the process, he broke 8 world records. Silbury Hill, near Avebury in Wiltshire, England, is the largest prehistoric man-made mound in Europe. It is 130 feet tall, and its purpose is still unknown. During World War I, there was a Christmas truce in 1914. In the week leading up to Christmas, German and British soldiers had a series of ceasefires where they entered no man's land to mingle and exchange seasonal greetings. That truce is seen as a symbolic moment of peace during one of the most violent events in history. If you turn a shark upside down, it will enter a state of paralysis for up to 15 minutes. But do not try this at home in case you have a shark in your house. This phenomenon is called tonic immobility and causes the animal to become temporarily disoriented. Some scientists use this state to study sharks more safely in marine research. For years, Steven Spielberg told a story about how he managed to enter the film industry. He said he snuck into Universal Studios wearing a suit, sat in an empty office, and pretended someone had hired him. However, this was not true. He did sneak into the studios once out of curiosity, but later it was his successful father who arranged the visit so he could get that job. In the city of Odessa, Ukraine, there is a network of underground tunnels that were originally used for mining and later served as a shelter, called the Odessa Catacombs. It is one of the largest underground labyrinths in existence, with more than approximately 1,554 miles of passages. Historians believe that William Shakespeare was born and died on the same date. He was born on April 23, 1564, and died on April 23, 1616. In January 2013, the finance minister of Zimbabwe announced that his country had only $217 left in its bank account. This situation reflected years of economic crisis and hyperinflation that had forced the country to abandon its own currency and adopt foreign currencies such as the United States dollar. Since then, Zimbabwe has attempted to restructure its financial system, although it has continued to face economic difficulties and liquidity problems at different times. Jason Lewis was the first person to cross planet Earth without using engines or sails. He walked and traveled using all kinds of non-motorized transport across all types of terrain. It took him 13 years to complete his journey. His expedition, known as Expedition 360, began in 1994 and crossed continents and oceans using methods such as bicycles, roller skates, kayaks, and pedal-powered watercraft. Although it was discovered in 1974, the mausoleum of the first emperor of China, Qin Shi Huang, remains unopened. It is believed that inside there is a vast underground palace with rivers of mercury and deadly traps. Archaeologists have chosen not to disturb it out of respect and due to a lack of adequate technology. This site is famous for having the terracotta warriors outside, symbolically protecting the emperor. A German artist organized a special day in 2006 for all humans to jump at the same time, which, according to him, would cause the Earth to shift its orbit and be saved from climate change. Since then, every July 20th is celebrated as International Jump to Save the World Day. Elvis Presley had a twin brother who was stillborn. His name was Jesse Garon. A survey conducted in 2011 shows that the American pizza industry serves about 0.39 square miles of pizza per day. This figure reflects the enormous consumption in the country, where millions of pizzas are prepared daily and national chains dominate a large part of the market. In addition, pizza consumption is so ingrained that there is even a national day dedicated to celebrating it every year. When you get very scared, you turn pale because blood moves away from the skin. This helped humans in primitive times avoid bleeding to death when attacked by a wild animal. This effect occurs because the nervous system activates the fight or flight response, causing the blood vessels in the skin to contract and directing more blood to the muscles and vital organs. Billiards played a key role in the invention of plastic, since the ivory used to manufacture billiard balls became too expensive in the late 19th century. Faced with high demand for billiard balls and the rising cost of ivory, a more affordable alternative was sought, leading to the development of plastic materials such as bakelite. The Sultan of Brunei, Hassan al-Bolkiah, has the largest collection of Rolls-Royce automobiles. He has 150. In addition, he has another 2,000 luxury cars. His collection is part of a gigantic royal garage that, according to various estimates, exceeds 5,000 vehicles in total and includes unique models made especially for the royal family. According to a study conducted in 2018, the most famous and charismatic animals, such as lions, elephants, and giraffes, are at greater risk of extinction because they are heavily used in advertising and documentaries. This creates the false perception that they are not threatened and do not need conservation. The last words of Marie Antoinette were, "Sir, I ask your pardon." She was apologizing to her executioner after accidentally stepping on his foot on her way to the guillotine. This gesture was interpreted by many as a sign of courtesy even in her final moments during the French Revolution. Her execution took place in 1793 in Paris, marking one of the most symbolic episodes of the end of the French monarchy. There are more than 10,000 beaches in Australia, and on each one there must be a different creepy animal. It is Australia. The country is famous for its enormous biodiversity and for hosting several of the most venomous species in the world, including box jellyfish, sea snakes, sharks, and highly toxic spiders that are part of its natural ecosystems. The term bungee comes from an English dialect in which it was used to describe an elastic cord. In 1979, an extreme sports club popularized bungee jumping by leaping from the Clifton Bridge in Bristol, England. This sport has roots in the ancient land diving ritual of Vanuatu, where men jump from high platforms with vines tied to their ankles as a test of bravery. An error on the Costa Rica border in Google Maps caused a brief invasion by the Army of Nicaragua. After this incident, Google added to its terms that data from its map service should not be used as a reference to decide military actions between nations. For the James Bond movie No Time to Die, 3 different endings were filmed, and not even the main actor, Daniel Craig, knew which one would be used. There is an island in Alaska that reflects in such a way that it looks like it is floating in the air. Mother Nature is a crazy scientist. This visual effect occurs when the water is completely calm and acts like a perfect mirror, creating an optical illusion known as a superior mirage. This phenomenon is more common in cold regions like Alaska, where temperature differences between the air and the water can distort light and produce scenes that look out of this world. More than 25% of the world's natural gas reserves are located in Russia, in case you were wondering. This energy resource has been for decades a key part of its economy and geopolitical influence, especially in Europe, where many countries have historically depended on Russian gas exports to cover part of their energy consumption. In China, an unauthorized sequel to Harry Potter was sold. The book was similar to The Hobbit, and they only changed the names to characters from the famous Wizard saga. Shayla Wiggins, 19 years old, from Riverton, Wyoming, found a dead body floating in a river while playing Pokemon Go. She was trying to find a Pokemon near a natural water source, but she found something else. Ants use advanced warfare techniques, such as sending special ants to carry out reconnaissance tasks, and they also often send weaker ants to the front lines to distract the enemy and make way for the stronger ones. The YouTuber Andy George from the channel How to Make Everything once made a chicken sandwich from scratch. He grew the wheat to make the bread, prepared a chicken, went to the ocean for salt water to make salt, among other things. It took him 6 months and cost $1,500 in total. In the end, he said he did not like the taste very much. The quietest place in the world is the anechoic chamber at Microsoft's offices in Washington. The background noise in this room is so low that it approaches the mathematically defined threshold of absolute zero sound, just before reaching a vacuum, which is the complete absence of sound. Australia is the continental landmass that moves the fastest in the world. Each year, it is 2.8 inches farther north. This has even forced GPS data to be updated periodically. Some twins can create their own language to communicate with each other. This is known as cryptophasia. It usually appears when children spend a lot of time together and develop simplified or modified forms of language that only they understand. In most cases, it disappears as they grow up and begin interacting more with other people. The first street to be illuminated with incandescent lamps was Mosley Street in Newcastle, United Kingdom, in 1879. Thanks to the invention of Joseph Swan, this technological advancement quickly spread to other cities. In 1880, London and Paris also began installing similar streetlights. Actress Kate Winslet declared that it has happened many times that a fan approaches her to sign an image of the famous Titanic scene where Jack draws her like one of his French girls. But she says she never signs that image because it makes her very uncomfortable. The president of Finland, who ended his term in 2024, Sauli Niinisto, was in Thailand with his son during the 24 tsunami, where they survived by climbing onto a utility pole. People who have had a bone marrow transplant carry the donor's DNA in their blood, but in their saliva and hair, they have their own DNA. This has caused people to be arrested incorrectly because of this. The small country of Liechtenstein has only one prison that can hold a maximum of 20 people. However, any prisoner who needs to be incarcerated for more than 2 years is sent to Austria or Switzerland, which are only a few miles away. According to a study that was conducted, spiders like classical music. They found that when techno and rap were played, spiders built their webs as far away from the speakers as possible, while when Bach was played, they built them nearby. By the year 2004, the number of transistors that had been produced surpassed the number of grains of rice that had been harvested throughout all of history, a figure that has multiplied since then. Today, around 120,000 transistors can be purchased for the same price as a single grain of rice. When Neil Armstrong became the first man to walk on the moon in 1969, he carried a piece of muslin fabric from the left wing of the original Wright Flyer of 1903, the airplane of the Wright brothers, and a piece of wood from the left propeller of the plane in his spacesuit. President Andrew Jackson managed to pay off the entire national debt of the United States in 1835. It was the only time in history that the country was completely debt-free, and it lasted exactly 1 year. How things have changed. More than 700 grapes are used to make a bottle of wine, although it can vary depending on the brand and type. Mike Tyson had been arrested no fewer than 38 times by the time he was 13 years old. He was sent to a home for boys where he discovered he could box and began training professionally with a former boxer. The rest is history. On Saturn's moon Titan, the atmosphere is so dense and gravity is so low that humans could fly there if they attached wings to their arms and flapped them like birds. The Emperor of Japan, Akihito, is such an expert on goby fish that he has written 38 scientific studies about that species. In 1952, Mr. Potato Head was the first toy advertised on television. Nearly 2 million were sold in the first year alone, and Mrs. Potato Head arrived 1 year later in 1953. Originally, the pieces were stuck into real fruits and vegetables, until later a plastic body was included. Its success marked the beginning of a new era in children's advertising. There was a period of time in the city of Paris when it became fashionable to wear lightning rods on clothing and accessories, such as umbrellas. This device had only recently been invented by Benjamin Franklin. In 2019, a new section was added to the official rulebook of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Card Game Championships. establishing that any player who shows up wearing dirty clothes or who smells bad can be disqualified from the tournament. I wonder how many times something like that must have happened for them to add an official rule. In 2001 and 2002, Argentina had 5 presidents in 2 weeks. The chain of presidents began when Fernando de la Rúa resigned in December 2001. The last of the 5 was appointed in January 2002 amid large protests. The medical term for the butt crack is the intergluteal cleft, also known as the natal cleft and the vertical gluteal fold. The writer George Orwell, famous for books such as 1984, published a guide in 1946 detailing how to prepare a good cup of tea. The Milky Way has between 100 billion and 400 billion stars, but we can only see a few thousand with the naked eye from Earth, since our solar system is located approximately 27,000 light-years from the galactic center. Penguin wings function in the same way while they are swimming as the wings of other birds do when they are flying. So technically, penguins fly through the water. Searching on Google, "do a barrel roll" makes your entire browser do a full spin. The first name ever written that can still be read today is Kushim, found on a tablet with symbols made more than 5,000 years ago in the region where Mesopotamia was located. Jellyfish inhabit all the world's oceans and have survived 5 mass extinctions over 700 million years. All of this despite not having a specialized digestive system, a central nervous system, or a respiratory system. In Japan, if you are in someone's home and need to use the bathroom, you must change your house slippers for toilet slippers. Not only that, but you must then remove the toilet slippers before leaving the bathroom. This custom is part of a strong hygiene culture, where the goal is to prevent bathroom dirt from mixing with other areas of the home. Forgetting to remove them can be considered a rather embarrassing mistake. Madagascar is home to some of the most exotic organisms on the planet. Around 90% of all plant and animal species found in Madagascar are endemic, which means they are exclusive to a specific geographic location. Polar bear hairs are transparent and not white. Their skin is black to absorb as much heat from the sun as possible. The white appearance of their fur is due to each hollow hair scattering light, which allows them to camouflage perfectly in the snow and ice of the Arctic while retaining body heat more efficiently. Japan is the country with the highest number of vending machines, with more than 5.5 million installed, which is approximately 1 machine for every 23 people. In second place is China, where there are more than 300,000. In that country, this industry is experiencing exponential growth. In 2011, a 14-year-old amateur astronomer from Canada proved for the first time that the planet Jupiter is bright enough to cast a shadow on Earth. The animal rights group PETA approached the band Pet Shop Boys to ask them to change their name to Rescue Shelter Boys as a protest against the cruel conditions of many pet stores. Neil Tennant and Chris Lowe did not do it, but according to a post on their website, they believe the request raises an issue worth discussing. Although Wikipedia is seen as a massive and open project, much of its content has historically been driven by a relatively small group of very active editors. Various studies have pointed out that a minority accounts for a large portion of the edits, which influences which topics are developed the most. Even so, the platform has millions of articles in hundreds of languages and maintains systems of review, discussion, and constant monitoring to improve accuracy and detect errors or vandalism. At the Maruyama Zoo in Japan, they tried to breed 2 hyenas from 2010 to 2014, until they realized that both were males. The mistake happened because in spotted hyenas, distinguishing the gender is complicated. Females have an external organ very similar to that of males, which can confuse even experienced caretakers. A hidden Easter egg in the Sega Saturn game Astal was discovered 26 years after its release. It is an image file of Mario with a rather strange expression, hidden among the game's data. This title was released when the rivalry between Sega and Nintendo was at its peak in the 1990s. Japan receives imported rice from the United States due to international treaties, but since it is considered low quality, it is used to send as aid to poor countries or to feed farm animals. New York City has the area code 212 because, at the time, rotary phones were used, and the number has the shortest dialing time. This was because combinations with lower digits were faster to dial, so they were assigned to cities with high call volume. Other major cities like Los Angeles and Chicago received similar codes, optimizing efficiency in an era where every second in dialing had an impact on telephone networks. A disposable battery will have lost 25% of its power in 1 year, even if it has not been taken out of its packaging. This phenomenon is known as self-discharge and occurs due to internal chemical reactions that continue slowly even when the battery is not in use, gradually reducing its capacity over time. When the iconic Plaza Hotel in New York opened in 1907, a night cost $2.50, equivalent to about $64 today. Currently, a room costs more than $1,000 per night. The jump reflects not only inflation, but also how the luxury and exclusivity of this hotel increased significantly over time. The caffeine in the coffee plant developed as a way to repel predators after thousands of years of natural selection, in the same way capsaicin, the substance that makes chili peppers spicy, developed. Yet, humans still consume them. Astronaut Harrison Schmitt, who went to the moon on the Apollo 17 mission in 1972, realized he had a severe allergy to lunar dust. How to kiss was one of the most popular searches on YouTube. It was followed by how to tie a tie, how to draw, and how to get a six-pack in 3 minutes. Barrel-eye fish can see through their heads due to their transparency. They can rotate their eyes and look backward. Accessing a memory usually takes your brain 0.0004 seconds. This process occurs thanks to complex networks of neurons that activate almost instantly in different parts of the brain, especially in the hippocampus and the cerebral cortex, key regions for storing and retrieving memories. Frida Kahlo painted 55 self-portraits, many of which have reached record prices at auctions. In 2021, her work, Diego and I, sold for $34.9 million, setting a record for a Latin American artist. According to research, the country with the most tattooed population is the United Kingdom, and the tradition goes back many years. Even Winston Churchill, Prime Minister during World War II, had an anchor tattoo on his arm. After the South Korean soccer player An Jung-hwan scored the goal that eliminated Italy from the 2002 World Cup, his contract was canceled by the Italian team Perugia, where he was playing. He had to move to another team. Once, a man spent 121 days locked in a room surrounded by 40 venomous snakes in an attempt to break a Guinness record that was 107 days. When he succeeded, he was told that the record was no longer recognized because it was too dangerous. The KGB attempted to pressure the then president of Indonesia, Sukarno, using compromising material. However, far from feeling intimidated, he reacted calmly and even with humor, going so far as to ask for more copies of the material to share in his country. The largest bowling alley in the world is in Japan, in the city of Inazawa. It has 116 lanes across 650 feet, where up to 696 people can play at the same time. Have you noticed that some shopping malls are confusing and easy to get lost in? In reality, most are designed this way on purpose, so people wander around and forget what they originally came for. This style is called the Gruen transfer, and it has been proven to increase sales. According to various studies, a correlation has been found between higher ambient temperatures around the world and worse negative behaviors in people, such as violence. The lead singer of the band U2, Paul David Hewson, better known as Bono, chose that stage name as a tribute to his hometown, Dublin, specifically to a hearing aid store called Bonavox that is located there. Scientists have discovered that the perception of time varies across species depending on their metabolic rate and mass. Smaller animals can respond more quickly to visual stimuli because they can perceive movements as slower. There are wildlife overpasses, green bridges, and eco-ducts that were built over highways to allow animals to safely cross to the other side. They can be up to 197 feet wide. The largest are designed to accommodate large mammals such as bears, wolves, moose, and deer. They are covered with soil and vegetation to provide a suitable habitat for a wide range of animal groups. Although we laugh when we are tickled, it is actually the body's defense mechanism that activates in response to panic and anxiety. This phenomenon is related to two different types of tickling, called nismesis and gargalesis, and that is usually more intense in vulnerable areas such as the neck or the armpits. Interestingly, the brain reduces the response when you try to trigger it yourself, which suggests a strong component of surprise and alertness in this reaction. The longest hug lasted 5,000 years. Archaeologists found a pair of skeletons embracing in northern Italy. It is believed that the couple lived during the Neolithic period. The discovery occurred near the city of Mantua, and researchers nicknamed them the Lovers of Valdaro. Both were buried facing each other with their arms intertwined, which turned the discovery into one of the most famous prehistoric burials. The longest scientific name of an animal in Spanish is Parastratiosphecomia stratiosphecomioides, a species of fly discovered in Thailand. This name consists of 42 letters, comes from ancient Greek, and means resembling a soldier fly wasp. At the beginning of the 20th century, a group of scientists started a private food tasting club, but they only consumed toxic food and documented the effects it caused. With this, they managed to pressure the United States Congress to approve food regulation laws. The diameter of the planet Uranus is 31,763 miles wide. That is 4 times larger than Earth. In addition, it is one of the few planets that rotates almost on its side, with an axis tilted more than 90 degrees, which causes extreme seasons where each pole can spend entire decades in darkness or under sunlight. Water is 9% less heavy when it is frozen. This happens because when ice forms, the molecules arrange themselves in a more open crystalline structure, which increases the volume and reduces its density. Thanks to this property, ice floats on liquid water, something that is vital for life in lakes and oceans during winter. The refined British accent that we associate with England today emerged among the London elite around the time of the American Revolution in the 18th century. Before that, the British and the North American colonists spoke in a very similar way. Ironically, the American accent is closer to the original English than modern British English. In the United Arab Emirates, they are considering building a mountain. This is intended to help create rain and make the country's climate less desert-like. The Vatican has its own soccer team. Vatican City is the smallest independent state in the world and, therefore, has its own national soccer team. There is a disease called mosaic virus that causes watermelons to develop circular patterns that look like someone created artwork on them. In medieval times, it was believed that church bells helped scare away lightning. But in reality, it was the opposite. More than 100 accidents involving bell ringers caused by lightning were reported in the 15th century alone. In 1970, musician Bob Dylan was already tired of being listened to only by hippies, so he intentionally made an album called Self-Portrait with a very different, more pop style so his fan base would change. He had done something similar before when he decided to use only an electric guitar. The Hawaiian island of Niihau is also known as the Forbidden Island. Elizabeth Sinclair bought it in 1864, and now her descendants, the Robinson family, own it. The island is completely off-limits to everyone except the owners, their relatives, and invited guests. I do not know why you would invite a guest to this island. It is creepy. A company called Good Times dedicated itself to making poor versions of Disney movies. It took public domain stories that Disney's movies were based on and made versions that were suspiciously similar, so much so that Disney sued them at one point. However, they only managed to force them to place a label on the cover clarifying that it was not the original, so people would not buy them by mistake. Opera singers and other vocalists with exceptionally powerful voices are able to adapt the shape of their throat to match the human ear canal. This allows them to produce a sound that fits perfectly with the way our ears perceive it. This phenomenon is known as the singer's formant and consists of amplifying certain frequencies in the voice, allowing the sound to project with great clarity and resonance, even over long distances. The official bird of the city of Redondo Beach, California, is the famous Goodyear blimp, even though it clearly is not a bird. In 1967, St. Paul, Alberta, Canada, built the world's first UFO landing pad. The 130-ton structure consists of a raised platform with a map of Canada engraved on the backing, composed of stones provided by each province of Canada. The platform also has a time capsule that will be opened on the centennial of the platform's inauguration in 2067. Almost 2 billion people in the world speak English. However, it is only the native language of 350 million. Everyone else speaks it as a second language. The story of the hysteria among people supposedly caused by Orson Welles when he read The War of the Worlds on the radio in 1938 is actually a myth created by newspapers so that readers would view the influence of radio negatively, as it was becoming increasingly popular. The Golden Gate Bridge uses the largest bridge cables ever made. They were so long that they could actually wrap around the world more than 3 times at the equator. Each main cable is composed of thousands of interwoven steel wires, which gives it enormous strength and flexibility. This design allows the bridge to withstand strong winds and seismic movements, remaining stable despite the extreme conditions of the area. Charbonnet-Labat Funeral Home gained attention in 2014 for offering personalized farewells, where some people were remembered in poses that reflected aspects of their lives. This style had already appeared earlier in 2008 in Puerto Rico, and since then, it has sparked interest in different places as a unique form of tribute. We use 72 muscles working together in order to speak. These muscles control very precise movements of the tongue, lips, jaw, larynx, and diaphragm. Thanks to this coordination, human beings can produce an enormous variety of sounds and form complex words in different languages. Finland has ranked consecutively from 2018 through 2025 in first place in the World Happiness Report ranking of the happiest countries in the world. This report measures the well-being of countries based on factors such as quality of life, stability, social support, income, freedom, and trust. A band called Wolfpack uploaded a music album to Spotify that consisted only of silence and told their fans to repeat it every night while they slept. They earned $20,000 in royalties before Spotify realized the trick and deleted the songs. A chimpanzee named Santino, who lived in a zoo in Sweden, showed behavior that had never been observed in a chimpanzee before. He collected round concrete discs and stored them in one place until days with many visitors at the zoo, and then threw them. In the first quarter of 2014, Apple generated such enormous revenue that it surpassed that of Google, Amazon, and Facebook combined during that same period. This fact illustrates the level of dominance it reached at the time, driven mainly by the success of the iPhone, becoming one of the clearest examples of the economic power of big tech companies. In many countries, it is illegal to perform surgery on an octopus without using anesthesia. It is the only invertebrate that enjoys that privilege. This is because octopuses possess a very developed nervous system and have demonstrated complex behaviors, such as solving problems, opening containers, and using tools, which suggests that they can experience pain in a way similar to many vertebrates. In a scene from the movie Blade Trinity, the actor who played Blade, Wesley Snipes, refused to open his eyes when he had to wake up because he had problems with the director, so they had to add digital animated eyes, which are very obvious. The famous Leaning Tower of Pisa in Italy began construction in the year 1173, and due to the soft ground it was built on, it began sinking when only the third floor was being constructed. Even so, they finished it. In addition to leaning, it was also sinking. But a few years ago, work was done to reinforce its foundations. They did not straighten it completely because it would lose its tourist attraction. The first athlete to be disqualified for doping from the Olympic Games was the Swedish athlete Hans Gunnar Liljenvall in the modern pentathlon because he drank 2 beers before the shooting competition to relax, which gave him an advantage over the other athletes. Tectonic plates move on planet Earth at the same speed that fingernails grow, 0.04 inches per week. This movement of the plates is what causes volcanic activity. Before the 20th century, sugar was sold as large rocks, and you needed special tools to break it into pieces or grind it. The largest coin in the world was issued by the Royal Canadian Mint in 2007. It was 20 inches in diameter and 1 inch thick. It was made of 99.9% pure gold, weighs 220 pounds, and is estimated to be worth $1 million. In 1998, Sony accidentally sold 700,000 video cameras with technology that allowed people to see through clothing. The model had lenses that used infrared light that made it possible to see through certain types of clothing. The largest mountain that could exist on a neutron star would be only 0.2 inches tall. This is due to the extremely powerful gravity these celestial bodies have. Classic books on ethics are 50% more likely to be stolen from bookstores than all other philosophy books. This is according to a study conducted in 2010. The Myers-Briggs personality test, which has become famous on the internet in recent times and uses 4 letters to define each individual's personality type, actually has no scientific basis, according to many experts. Former President Barack Obama won 2 Grammy Awards before being elected. They were for Best Spoken Word Album, one for an audio recording of his 1995 memoir, Dreams from My Father, and the second was for The Audacity of Hope. Germany is a graveyard of unexploded bombs from World War II. An average of 2,000 tons of buried munitions are discovered there every year. Be careful when you go out for a casual walk in Germany. Specialized teams are responsible for locating and defusing them, and mass evacuations are sometimes carried out when large devices are found. Throughout history, two wars have begun because someone threw someone else out of a window in Prague. These events are known as the defenestrations of Prague and occurred in 1419 and in 1618. In particular, the second one triggered the start of the 30 Years' War, one of the most devastating conflicts in 17th century Europe. The games Pokémon Gold and Silver were going to be the last in the franchise. That is why they included battles against the gym leaders from the original game, and, at the end, against the protagonist as the conclusion of the story. But since they were a great success, they decided to continue and release Pokémon Crystal. The original version of Beauty and the Beast, written in 1740, was created specifically to help women accept arranged marriages. In that version, the Beast is a combination of an elephant and a fish. Former United States President Herbert Hoover and his wife learned to speak Mandarin when they lived in China. They used to speak it in the White House when they did not want their private conversations to be overheard. Humans and dogs are the only species observed that can receive directions or visual signals directly from the eyes of other individuals. Dogs only do this with humans, and not with other animals. The Harry Potter series has been translated into more than 70 languages. There are even versions in less common languages, and some special editions with cultural adaptations. The global phenomenon of the saga has led millions of readers around the world to grow up with its stories, making it one of the most influential and successful book collections in contemporary literature. Architects in Australia designed a housing concept called Cliff House. The concept shows a 5-story home hanging from a cliff on the southwest coast of Australia with incredible views of the Indian Ocean. That is not something I would ever live in, because heights terrify me. Marco Hort holds the world record for putting the largest number of straws in his mouth at once. He placed 264. He achieved this mark during an event organized by Guinness World Records, using flexible straws that he carefully arranged between his lips and teeth without breaking them. The attempt took several minutes of preparation to arrange them all correctly. The tallest statue in the world is the Statue of Unity in Gujarat, India, with a height of 597 feet. This monument, inaugurated in 2018, honors Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, a key figure in the independence and unification of India. To put its height into perspective, it is twice as tall as the Statue of Liberty and 4 times taller than Christ the Redeemer in Rio de Janeiro. A Japanese steel plant is the only one that can produce the central part of a nuclear reactor container from a single ingot weighing 661.4 short tons. This company also manufactures traditional samurai swords. In addition to his work at Marvel, Stan Lee also wrote 15 comics for DC in the year 2000, including special editions and reimaginings of characters such as Batman and Superman. It is a common myth that the X-Men character Cyclops can shoot heat rays from his eyes. In reality, these rays are concussive energy that feels like a physical blow, and even the comic creators themselves have made mistakes about this at times. In 1930, the planet Pluto was named by an 11-year-old girl named Venetia Burney. She suggested the name Pluto to her grandfather, who in turn suggested it to a friend who happened to be an astronomy professor at the University of Oxford. He was also one of the leaders in the global effort to produce an astrographic chart. In 2014, scientists at MIT designed a device to help blind people read without Braille. It is called Finger Reader, and users can use it to scan a line of text with their finger and receive an audio response of the words. The scientist and inventor Nikola Tesla was obsessed with the number 3. He liked to walk around the block 3 times before entering any building and demanded that the number of the hotel room where he stayed be divisible by 3. He also had other habits related to numbers, such as always using a stack of napkins to clean his utensils before eating, something that some biographers have interpreted as possible obsessive-compulsive behaviors. The United States Secret Service once organized an operation against a tabletop role-playing game company called Steve Jackson Games because they believed its manual GURPS Cyberpunk was a handbook for hackers. In the end, the company received $300,000 in damages after it was discovered that everything had been a mistake. Lyrebirds, native to Australia, are so skilled at imitating sounds that they have been heard perfectly imitating other animals. But not only that, they also imitate sounds such as car horns, hammers, and chainsaws. According to a study conducted in 2001 by Diana Reese of the Osborne Laboratories of Marine Sciences at the New York Aquarium, dolphins actually recognize themselves and notice changes in their appearance when they look in a mirror. Before this research, only higher primates, such as humans and chimpanzees, had demonstrated self-recognition in mirrors. There is a place in California called Glass Beach, where years of people dumping trash along a stretch of coastline have led to the development of smooth sea glass. Believe it or not, tourists in the area like to collect the glass, so now a movement has emerged to replenish the beach with discarded glass. The ancient Persian language has 80 different words that mean love. This is because the language distinguishes between many types of affection and emotions, from romantic and passionate love to family affection, deep friendship, or spiritual love. This richness of terms reflects the cultural and literary importance of love in classical Persian poetry. The Klein bottle is a shape that has no inside or outside, since it has only one surface and one edge, and it can only exist in four-dimensional space. In the series Futurama, there is a beer called Klein that is sold inside bottles with this shape. The famous boxer and grill salesman George Foreman gave the same name to his 5 sons. They are all named George Foreman, just like him, so they would always have something in common. There are some viral videos about McDonald's hamburgers that never rot, and this is true, but it is not because they have mysterious chemicals or anything like that. It is simply because dehydration and the low humidity they are kept in is the same method used to prepare dried meat. In 2011, 1/3 of all divorce filings recorded in the United States contained the word Facebook. Divorce lawyers say that the use of social media in divorce proceedings and child custody battles has been increasing. The moon's atmosphere contains so little gas that it is almost a perfect vacuum, which means it could be used in the future as a potential space to carry out specialized industrial processes. However, each moon landing of the Apollo program caused this atmospheric mass to double, a modification that is irreversible. Robin Williams provided the voice of the genie in Aladdin in exchange for $75,000, but on the condition that his name and image would not be used in advertising and that his character would not take up more than 25% of the space on posters. In the end, Disney did not respect these conditions because they wanted to ensure box office success. Big Ben in London, England, is actually leaning toward the northwest by 0.26 degrees, which puts it out of alignment at its highest point by 1.6 feet. This was discovered when Transport for London commissioned a report. It is believed that the London clay on which the tower was built is drying out, causing the tilt. Lillian Weber is a woman from Iowa who sews a dress from scratch every day so that a child in need can have something beautiful to wear. She has made more than 840 garments in recent years for an organization called Little Dresses for Africa. A rat can survive longer without drinking water than a camel. This is because rats can obtain much of the water they need from the food they eat, and they have very efficient kidneys that conserve fluids. Thanks to these adaptations, they can survive long periods in dry environments without drinking water directly. Actor Jim Carrey wrote himself a check for $10 million in 1990, dated for cashing 5 years later as a way of manifesting his goals. This was when he was beginning to become known in Hollywood. 5 years later, his salary for the movie Dumb and Dumber was $10 million. A mail carrier from southern Lyon, France, named Ferdinand Cheval, collected rocks during 34 years of service and used them to build a castle he called the Ideal Palace of Postman Cheval. It became a local attraction. Sauli Niinistö, the current president of Finland, was in Thailand during the 2004 tsunami. He survived only because he climbed onto a pole together with his son. Ducks have accents, seriously. Just like humans, they are influenced by their environment, and this affects their communication, making them quack with regional accents. Studies have shown that they can imitate sounds they hear from a young age, which influences how they communicate within their group. When the movie Babylon was being planned, actress Emma Stone had been chosen for the lead role based on the real-life actress Clara Bow, but she had to leave because filming was delayed. Shortly afterward, Margot Robbie took her place, and the story was changed to make it a role less closely tied to reality. The first recorded worker strike occurred in ancient Egypt around 4,000 years ago, carried out by tomb and pyramid construction workers because the food they were paid with had run out. Since it was the first time this had happened, The supervisors agreed to the demands because they did not know how to react. In France, books are classified as an essential good, along with things such as electricity, water, and bread. The rock band Kiss has more greatest hits compilation albums than regular albums with new songs. They have 21 greatest hits albums and 20 regular ones. Sweat is actually odorless. It is only when bacteria on the skin and hair metabolize the proteins and fatty acids in sweat that an unpleasant smell is produced. Areas with a higher concentration of apocrine glands, such as the armpits, tend to generate stronger odors because they produce sweat that is richer in compounds that bacteria break down easily. Keeping the skin clean significantly reduces this process. When Thor: The Dark World was released, a movie theater in Shanghai accidentally used a fan-made image as the official movie poster. How awkward. This type of mistake usually happens due to confusion in the distribution of promotional material, especially when unofficial images circulate on the internet. To recreate the Lego Movie in real life, you would need more than 15 million pieces. The animation for this movie was made entirely with digital effects. The animators designed every element to look as if it were built with real blocks, including imperfections, scratches, and slightly misaligned pieces, with the goal that the result would feel as if it had been filmed with physical toys. Only 4 countries in the world have national anthems without official lyrics: Spain, Bosnia and Herzegovina, San Marino, and Kosovo. The lack of lyrics in these anthems is due to different reasons, whether to avoid conflicts between different ethnic communities or simply because none were ever proposed. The food with the highest caloric value is animal fat, which contains nearly 900 calories per 3.5 ounces. Pterodophobia is the fear of ferns. Although it may seem unusual, it is part of specific phobias, where the fear is centered on a particular object. In some cases, it may be related to negative experiences or cultural associations, and those who suffer from it may avoid parks, gardens, or damp areas where these plants grow abundantly. Istanbul has an estimated 150,000 stray dogs. A company called Pugidon has created a vending machine where food and water can be dispensed for dogs when people recycle their plastic bottles. This system encourages recycling while also helping take care of urban animals. Libyan rebels found in the house of the dictator, Muammar Gaddafi, an album full of photos of Condoleezza Rice. According to reports at the time, the Libyan leader had publicly expressed admiration for the then United States Secretary of State, whom he called his beloved African black woman. The discovery attracted much attention during the looting after the fall of the regime. Leonardo da Vinci invented scissors, but he did not win an Oscar. In the ancient Persian Empire, it was a custom to debate important ideas twice, once sober and once after drinking. It was believed that if the ideas sounded good both ways, then they were considered good. There is a town in Arizona called Nothing, and it is a ghost town, so there is literally nothing there. At one point, it had a small population and some basic services, but over time it was abandoned until it became practically deserted, which makes its name even more fitting. A man in Great Britain changed his name to Tim Price just to make it difficult for telemarketers to pronounce. The idea was that when hearing his name, the operators would get confused or give up continuing the call. The case became popular in British media as a curious example of the many strategies some people use to avoid telemarketing. Ostriches can run faster than horses, and the males can roar almost like lions. In 1967, the members of the Beatles were seriously considering buying an island near the coast of Athens, Greece. They wanted to turn it into a utopian society, but later they forgot and did not buy it. The largest squid ever captured weighed approximately 992 pounds and measured almost 39 feet. If rings had been made from this squid, a popular dish in many countries, they would have been the size of a tractor tire. Dogs watch more television nowadays, but this is not because they have become more intelligent. It is because of the resolution and size of modern televisions. Older cathode ray tube televisions were too blurry for them to distinguish what was being shown. In Venezuela, a liter of water costs more than a liter of fuel. The price of gasoline remains one of the lowest in the world due to strong government subsidies, costing only a few cents per liter in its subsidized version, while drinking water can be more expensive in practice. This happens because, due to supply failures, many people must buy water from private providers at significantly higher prices. Babies are actually able to give a thumbs up in the womb. Seriously, you know you are going to have a cool kid when they do that. This type of movement can be observed through ultrasounds and is part of normal motor coordination development before birth, and some fetuses also suck their thumbs. The first traffic light used gas lighting and had to be lit manually each time the light changed. It was located outside the Parliament of London. Unfortunately, it exploded and injured the police officer who operated it. It was installed in 1868 and was inspired by the railway signals of the time, with mechanical arms during the day and red and green lights at night. After the explosion, the system was removed, and several decades passed before electric traffic lights began to be used. Omo is a very unusual giraffe because she is white. She lives in Tanzania, and although she is now able to avoid threats from lions and hyenas due to her age, she is in danger because hunters want her as a trophy. In Mexico, it is legal to escape from prison because it is considered a human instinct to seek freedom. However, those who escape almost always break other laws in the process. When he was just 13 years old, Ashton Kutcher went through a very difficult moment when he saw his brother suffering from a heart condition. In the middle of that situation, he even thought about making a great sacrifice to help him, although over time he was able to move forward together with his family. His brother eventually received the medical support he needed, and both have continued with their lives. The movie Moonlight was made with only $1.5 million. There has not been an Academy Award-winning movie with a lower budget since Rocky. The New York Times published a report in 1939 claiming that television would be a sales failure because families did not have enough time to gather and watch it. The oldest octopus fossil was discovered in northeastern Illinois, United States. It dates back approximately 296 million years. This finding suggests that the ancestors of modern octopuses already existed much earlier than previously thought, and that their evolution occurred in ancient shallow seas. Unlike modern octopuses, some of these early specimens retained more rigid structures that disappeared over time. The director of the series House of the Dragon, Greg Yaitanes, admitted that he was inspired by the movie How to Train Your Dragon to create the cinematography for one of the battles that occur in the first season. Journalists in some English-speaking countries have to learn a type of shorthand writing called T-line, which can combine symbols to write faster, allowing them to take notes at speeds of up to 150 words per minute. Icelandic horses are unique because they have remained genetically isolated since the first ones brought by the Vikings in the 9th century and show adaptations to the environment. To preserve them, a law was established stating that once a horse leaves Iceland, it is never allowed to return. The Chinese soft-shell turtle is the first known animal that can urinate through its mouth. This was first discovered by researchers from the National University of Singapore, who noticed that the turtles put their heads into puddles of water and moved their tongues, but they were not drinking. Despite their size difference, praying mantises can easily catch and eat hummingbirds. That is terrifying. They use their fast, spiny front legs to grab their prey mid-flight, and although it is not common, this behavior has been documented on several occasions in different regions. There are more barrels of bourbon whiskey aging than people in Kentucky, United States. This happens because the law requires bourbon to be aged in new, charred oak barrels for several years. The distilleries of the state store millions of barrels in large wooden warehouses, where the climate and the passage of time help develop the drink's characteristic flavor. A lion kills fewer than 20 animals each year on average for food or protection. Although they are iconic predators, they do not hunt every day and usually rest much of the time to conserve energy. In addition, females carry out most group hunts, which increases efficiency and reduces the number of failed attempts. Veterans Stadium, where the Philadelphia Eagles football team previously played, had a court and a jail specifically for fans who attended the games, who had a reputation for being very rowdy. A group of hippopotamuses is called a bloat. A group of zebras is called a zeal. A group of crows is called a murder. A group of bears is called a sloth. A group of apes is called a shrewdness. A group of giraffes is called a tower. And a group of emus is called a mob. In 1992, the CEOs of Southwest Airlines and Stevens Aviation settled a dispute over who could use the slogan "Plain Smart" with an arm wrestling match instead of dealing with a long and tedious legal battle. I feel like that should happen more often. A good old-fashioned arm wrestling match. Kenny Baker, the man who was inside R2-D2 in the Star Wars trilogy, hated Anthony Daniels, the actor who played C-3PO. He called him the most ill-mannered man I have ever met. According to Baker, the relationship between the two actors was tense during filming, and they hardly spoke outside of scenes. even though their characters appear together constantly in the movies. Cigarette butts are the item most commonly thrown on the street. It is estimated that more than 4 trillion are discarded each year. Each one takes between 5 and 400 years to decompose. Please stop littering. Only 15% of all plant species are on land. The rest are aquatic. Portobello mushrooms are actually just regular mushrooms, only larger. The term was created in 1980 as a marketing campaign to sell more of them. Before that, nobody bought them. In 1989, the company Nike made a commercial in which they showed people from the Samburu tribe wearing the brand sneakers, and one of them speaks, and the famous slogan, "Just do it," appears in the subtitles as if he were saying it. Shortly afterward, an anthropologist saw the commercial and contacted the company, because what they were actually saying was, "I do not want these, give me bigger shoes." Ronald Reagan and Donald Trump are the only two divorced men to be elected president. That includes more than 2 centuries of United States presidential elections. Anopheles is a genus of mosquito that means useless in Greek, which makes a lot of sense, because, seriously, what are mosquitoes even for other than driving me crazy? However, some species of this genus are known for transmitting diseases such as malaria, making them one of the most dangerous animals for humans. Headphones can be used as microphones and vice versa. Basically, they are the same thing, although you will not get the same quality, of course. Both devices work thanks to a small diaphragm that vibrates with sound. In headphones, that vibration turns into sound waves, while in a microphone, the opposite process happens, and it becomes an electrical signal. Despite being one of the most densely populated places, Japan is the developed country with the highest percentage of forest territory, 74%. According to a study from the University of Westminster in the United Kingdom, watching a horror movie can make you burn up to 200 calories, the same as a 30-minute walk. The Olympic sport considered the most boring of all was the distance diving event at the 1904 Olympic Games, where competitors had to jump into the pool with all their strength but could not move after entering the water. They had to remain motionless, and whoever traveled the farthest with the initial momentum won. Usually, the heavier competitors won. By 1920, this event had already lost popularity and was forgotten. Baby blue whales can consume up to 39 gallons of their mother's milk per day. This milk is extremely rich in fat, which allows them to gain weight very quickly, reaching gains of dozens of pounds daily in their early stages of life. Thanks to this intense nutrition, they grow at an impressive rate and rapidly develop the size needed to survive in the open ocean. Because he did not like signing autographs, Marlon Brando's personal checks became collector's items. People often did not cash Brando's checks because his signature was worth more than the amount written on the check. Tyrannosaurus rex were so heavy that if they tripped, they could die from the impact. Their little arms would not help them at all if they tried to cushion the fall. It is estimated that an adult could weigh between about 13,000 and 20,000 pounds, so a strong fall would have placed enormous pressure on its bones and organs. For that reason, many paleontologists believe these animals probably moved with some caution to avoid serious injuries. In the series The Office, the companies Office Max and Staples are presented as direct rivals of the fictional company Dunder Mifflin, which specializes in selling paper and office supplies. Interestingly, just like Dunder Mifflin, both companies faced difficulties staying afloat in real life. Staples was acquired in 2017 by the firm Sycamore Partners, and Office Max was purchased by Office Depot in 2013. The movie Kung Fu Panda was so successful in China that it caused a national debate about why Western people managed to make a better movie about Chinese culture than the Chinese themselves. There is a competition called The World's Biggest Liar that is held annually in England. Competitors from all over the world have 5 minutes to tell the biggest and most convincing lie they can come up with. Believe it or not, politicians and lawyers are banned from participating because it is believed they are too good at lying. The rhythm of the Mission Impossible theme is actually the letters MI in Morse code. The composer Lalo Schifrin used the pattern of dots and dashes corresponding to those letters to construct the famous irregular rhythm of the melody. That rhythmic detail helped make the theme immediately recognizable and one of the most famous television pieces of music in history. The characteristic smell of freshly cut grass is actually a distress signal from the plant after it has been damaged. The most expensive book ever sold in history is the Codex Leicester, which is a collection of notes and drawings by Leonardo da Vinci. It was auctioned for a little over $30 million, and the buyer was none other than Bill Gates. Our mouths secrete approximately 1/4 of a gallon of saliva per day. This production helps break down food from the very beginning, facilitating digestion and protecting the teeth against bacteria. Saliva also contains enzymes and compounds that keep the mouth moist and healthy, and its flow can increase when smelling or thinking about food, even before taking the first bite. In the movie Django Unchained, there is an explosion with dynamite in one scene. This is an error, since the story of the movie takes place in 1858, and dynamite would not be invented by Alfred Nobel until 1866. Many cereals and other products, such as potato chips and butters, contain an ingredient called butylated hydroxytoluene that allows them to retain color, flavor, and aroma. This same compound is called additive AO29, and oil companies use it as a stabilizer in hydraulic fluids, turbine oils, and jet fuel, meaning your cereal shares an ingredient with airplane fuel. In 2005, the Austrian art collective Gelatin created a massive pink rabbit sculpture called Hase, which means hair, and installed it on a hillside in the Piedmont region of Italy. The piece, more than 200 feet long, was designed for hikers to interact with it, and over time, to decompose naturally. Although it was originally estimated that it would disappear around 2025, its deterioration has been gradual, and today, it remains as a curious installation in ruins. Small pseudoscorpions, which usually measure from 0.08 to 0.31 inches long, are often found in rooms with dusty books. They actually protect books by feeding on book lice and dust mites. And now, everyone is wondering when was the last time they dusted. Eminem suffered so much bullying in school that his mother sued the institution for failing to protect her son. The case was filed after the rapper, whose real name is Marshall Mathers, suffered an assault that caused a concussion and left him unconscious for several days. Although the lawsuit was unsuccessful, the episode was later mentioned in interviews and in some of his songs. According to a study, Inuit, Native Americans, and Siberians have a gene related to tolerance to low temperatures. Margaret Abbott, a woman who won a golf tournament in Paris, received only a porcelain bowl as a prize. Much later, it was discovered that this event had been part of the 1900 Olympic Games, which clearly had not been very well organized. She never knew she was supposed to have won a gold medal. Bears are the only mammals that do not urinate or defecate during the months of winter hibernation, and doctors have studied how bears recycle their urine to help human patients with kidney failure. During this period, their bodies convert waste into useful proteins, preventing muscle loss and toxin poisoning, something that has sparked great interest in medicine to develop more efficient treatments in humans. Cold showers are actually healthier than hot ones. Among other benefits, they improve immunity and circulation and relieve stress and depression. They can also help reduce inflammation and support muscle recovery, which is why they are popular among athletes and people who regularly engage in physical activity. Nelly Furtado once turned down $500,000 to pose in Playboy with clothes on. The proposal consisted of an elegant and non-explicit photo session, but the singer decided to reject it because she wanted her career to remain focused on music and not on her image. During those years, her popularity was rising thanks to international hits that dominated radio and music television. In 1994, NBA player Hakeem Olajuwon released $35 sneakers under his own brand instead of doing so with Nike or Reebok. His reason was that sneakers from those brands are too expensive and poor families cannot afford them, pushing children to do things such as stealing to buy them. Stephon Marbury did something similar in 2006, with his sneakers priced at only $15. Each year, 20 billion Lego pieces are manufactured worldwide. Their manufacturing process is so effective and precise that out of every million pieces produced, only 18 are defective, and a computer filters them out so they do not reach the sets. Even though we refer to zero gravity when astronauts are floating in space, gravity is actually present everywhere in the universe. It is just that in outer space, the gravitational force is much weaker, which is why it appears as if there is none. France and the Netherlands have a land border, but it is not located in Europe. It is in the Caribbean, on the island of Saint Martin, the smallest inhabited island in the region, whose territory is divided in half between lands of both countries. The longest tennis match in history was between the French player Nicolas Mahut and the American player John Isner at the 2010 Wimbledon Championship. It lasted 11 hours and 5 minutes over 3 days and consisted of 183 games. John Isner ended up being the winner. Interestingly, blood has properties similar to eggs in cooking and can be used as a viable substitute for baking and making ice cream. Anyone want red velvet cake? This is due to its protein content, which can coagulate and provide structure, although its use is uncommon in modern cooking. Doritos can be made without the powder and achieve the same flavor. However, they are still made that way because the residue it leaves on your fingers is part of the Doritos experience, according to them. The brand has even mentioned in advertising campaigns that licking the powder from your fingers is part of the product's appeal, something that reinforces its identity within the snack market. Butterfly McQueen, who is part of the cast of the movie Gone with the Wind, could not attend the premiere because it was held in a theater that prohibited entry to African Americans. The word Kummerspeck is a German term used to describe the weight gain someone has from eating too much during emotional moments, such as when you eat an entire tub of ice cream while crying after a breakup. The first automobile was created in France by Nicolas Joseph Cugnot in 1769, and what is considered the first modern automobile was made in 1886 by Carl Benz in Germany, who shortly afterward would found Mercedes-Benz. Joey Jaws Chestnut, a 32-year-old native of California, reclaimed his title by winning the annual Nathan's Hot Dog Eating Contest of 2016 held in Coney Island. He devoured 70 hot dogs in just 10 minutes. That is one hot dog every 8.6 seconds. There is a Twitter account called Big Ben Clock that posts bong 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 every hour. It has been doing this since 2009. Whoever runs that account needs a hobby. This type of automated account is usually programmed to post continuously, and some become popular for their consistency and simplicity. Despite having more than 1 billion inhabitants, in China there are only about 200 surnames. This is because many family names have been passed down for thousands of years, and a large portion of the population shares the same ones. In fact, surnames such as Wang, Li, and Zhang are among the most common on the planet, and each one is used by tens of millions of people. On April 15, 1912, one day after the sinking of the Titanic, a waiter on a ship discovered an iceberg in the middle of the ocean. He took a photo because he noticed it appeared to be stained with red paint. Well, maybe it was not paint. The photo was black and white anyway. The residents of the small town of Marotikal in India began playing chess as an alternative to drinking after alcohol was banned there. Now it is known as Chess Village, and some state champions have come from there. The writer Scott Fitzgerald never knew of his success. 2 years after his death, 155,000 copies of his book, The Great Gatsby, were sent to soldiers during the Second World War, greatly increasing its popularity. To this day, it still sells around 500,000 copies a year. The first occurrence of identical twins in birds was discovered in the emu. This finding is extremely rare, since birds usually develop a single embryo per egg, which makes cases like this uncommon. The discovery caught the attention of scientists because it provides clues about embryonic development in birds and how unusual cell divisions can occur at very early stages. In September 1940, 2 planes collided over Brocklesby, Australia, and became locked together. The engines of the top plane stopped working, but those of the bottom plane kept running, so the pilot of that plane safely landed both aircraft and all 4 crew members survived. Police in Japan shoot orange paint at cars they are chasing so that other patrol units can identify them and help. This type of marker allows the vehicle to be located more easily if it manages to escape from the scene. The paint used is usually visible and difficult to remove quickly, which makes it easier for other units or cameras to detect it later. The facial recognition algorithms used by Facebook are better than those used by the FBI. Before Peter Pan and Wendy became a successful stage play and book series, the name Wendy was considered a male name. Later, it became a popular name for girls. For every human in the world, there are around 200 million insects. And in total, the insect population on the planet is 10 trillion, which is a 1 followed by 18 zeros. The Taj Mahal in India took more than 22 years to build. Construction began in 1632 and was completed in 1653. It was built when Emperor Shah Jahan was filled with grief for his deceased wife and wanted to create a testament to his love. A group called the Mineko Club in Japan created zoo jeans to raise money for the World Wildlife Fund and the local Kamine Zoo in the city of Hitachi. Lions, tigers, and bears design the genes by tearing them, creating a distressed style. The genes are then auctioned for charitable purposes. With the help of a licking machine, it was discovered that, on average, it takes 364 licks to reach the center of a Tootsie Pop. It is true. The experiment was carried out by engineering students from Purdue University, who built a device that imitated the movement of a tongue in order to obtain a more consistent result than a human test. According to an ancient Chinese custom, eating chicken at a person's funeral helps their soul fly to paradise. In 2005, Neil Armstrong, the first man to step on the moon, almost sued his barber after he sold some of his hair for $3,000. The buyer did not want to return the hair, but said he would donate another $3,000 to charity. In the 17th century, the Catholic Church declared that beavers were fish. This was so that the prohibition on eating meat during the Lenten season would not apply to these animals, and people could eat them when there was a shortage of fish. Bald eagles build nests that are usually around 5 feet in diameter. They often use the same nests year after year, and they can become even larger, reaching as much as 9 feet and weighing up to 2 tons. These nests, called eyrie, are built with large branches and are constantly reinforced, so over time they can reach impressive sizes and become the largest bird nests ever recorded. Meet Amu Haji, an Iranian hermit whose life defied all norms. He went more than 6 decades without bathing because he believed that cleanliness would make him sick, living in extreme conditions and developing unusual habits such as smoking dried animal dung. His story not only amazed the world, but also sparked curiosity about how the human body can adapt to completely unconventional lifestyles. He passed away in 2022 at the age of 94. LEGO rejected the offer from the White Stripes to make a cross-promotion for the music video Fell in Love with a Girl. When they saw that it was a hit, LEGO changed its mind, but the counteroffer was rejected. There are more possible combinations of chess games than atoms in the entire universe. Up to 170,000 pencils can be made from the wood of an average-sized tree. There are twice as many people of Scottish descent living in the United States and in Canada as there are in Scotland itself today. Actor Bryan Cranston had only acted in some commercials and small roles since the early 1980s. His first major role did not come until the series Malcolm in the Middle, when he was 44 years old. Scientists from Georgia State University have discovered that monkeys share another trait with humans. They are also susceptible to optical illusions. To test this, capuchin and rhesus monkeys looked at a visual illusion where 2 dots were surrounded by rings but were actually the same size. And they were fooled, just like many people. White Coke is a clear version of Coca-Cola, commissioned by Soviet Marshal Georgy Zhukov in the 1940s. He requested it because he was a fan of Coca-Cola but did not want to be seen drinking it in public, so he asked for it to look like vodka instead. Yes, because it is much better to drink vodka in public than Coca-Cola. Do not even think about drinking Coca-Cola in Russia. But vodka, that is fun for the whole family. Approximately 8 million gallons of clean water had to be dumped from a reservoir in Portland, Oregon, United States, in 2011 because a drunk person decided to urinate in it. Authorities chose to empty the reservoir as a sanitary precaution, although several experts pointed out that the amount of water was so large that the contamination would have been minimal. A man named Derek Amato hit his head on the edge of a swimming pool one day. When he recovered, he had a condition called acquired savant syndrome. After that, he dedicated himself to being a pianist and did not even have to learn. Uganda is the country with the greatest ethnic diversity in the world, and the next 20 most diverse countries are all in Africa. A mini specially designed and radio-controlled was used to transport javelins, hammers, shot puts, and discus across the field at the 2012 London Olympic Games. The mini-minis measure 39 inches long and can carry loads of up to 40 pounds. A study conducted in 2011 shows that the brain responds to emotional pain in the same way it does to physical pain. So, when people say that rejection hurts, it is very true. Research using magnetic resonance imaging has shown that similar brain areas are activated, which explains why these experiences can feel so intense. Despite being one of the most successful games of all time, Mortal Kombat only had a team of 4 developers. The original game was created by a small group at Midway Games that included programmers, artists, and designers working together. Despite their limited resources, they managed to create a title that revolutionized fighting games and became a cultural phenomenon. Among the strange purchases actor Nicolas Cage has made at some point are a private island in the Bahamas, a haunted mansion in New Orleans, Superman #1 comic book, a crocodile and a shark, a collection of pygmy shrunken heads, a dinosaur fossil, and a pyramid-shaped tomb. The term hipster, which was recently used to describe someone who has or tries to have a lot of style and bohemian culture, actually originated in the 1930s and was originally used to refer to someone in the jazz scene. Approximately 50% of Asians have trouble metabolizing alcohol because they lack a liver enzyme that is necessary to process it. This condition, known as ALDH2 deficiency, causes symptoms such as facial flushing, rapid heartbeat, and discomfort even with small amounts of alcohol. So many people choose to avoid it to prevent those unpleasant effects. There is an environmentally friendly spray coating for pavements called Star Path that makes the surface glow in the dark. Not only that, but it even adjusts to the level of natural light available. The darker it is, the brighter it glows. There is a replica of Stonehenge made with cars painted gray in Nebraska, United States. The structure is called Carhenge and was built in 1987 by the artist Jim Reinders as a humorous interpretation of the prehistoric monument in England. To create it, he used dozens of old cars placed in positions similar to the original stones, and today it functions as an outdoor tourist attraction. Romantic chess was a predominant style of play before the 20th century, in which players prioritized creativity and artistic expression over deep strategy or long-term planning. In this approach, risky attacks and spectacular tactical combinations were valued, resulting in exciting and surprise-filled games. This style was gradually replaced by a more technical and calculating approach. The record for the longest jump by a human is 29.2 feet, achieved at the 1968 Olympic Games, while the longest jump by a horse is 27.6 feet, which is 1.6 feet less. The cartoon Tom and Jerry is named after a Christmas cocktail that was invented in the 1820s, which is a variation of eggnog with added brandy and rum. Scientists calculated that the chemical elements that make up a human body would cost around $160. That means we are worth less than a PlayStation 5. In Queensland, Australia, it is strictly forbidden to keep rabbits as pets because they are considered invasive species that could ruin the ecosystem. However, there are some exceptions. You only have to prove that you are a scientist or a magician to be given a special permit. According to National Geographic explorer Zeb Hogan, the European catfish is the largest freshwater fish in Europe. It can grow up to 15 feet long, weigh up to 660 pounds, and live for decades, possibly up to 80 years. Guide dogs are capable of going against their owner's instructions when they believe the command is not safe. This is called intelligent disobedience. This behavior is essential for protecting people, as the animal prioritizes safety even above direct obedience. In 1933, Mickey Mouse received 800,000 letters from his fans. The character had become a worldwide sensation only a few years after his debut in sound animation, and Walt Disney Studios had to create special departments to handle the enormous volume of correspondence arriving from different countries. In 2007, Princess Peach from the popular Mario Brothers games appeared on the Forbes Fictional 15 list. At 23 years old, she already had a fortune of $1,300,000,000, obtained through inheritances and a divorce. Mamma mia. There is a city in Nebraska, United States, called Minowi that has only one resident. She is Elsie Eiler, an elderly woman who manages the library, the bar, and all matters that take place there. According to 2 independent studies that were conducted, randomly promoting people within a company to management positions turns out to be more effective than traditional methods such as experience or merit. The Kumbuk River Resort in Sri Lanka is a hotel shaped like a giant elephant. Guess where the entrance is? This curious structure was built mainly with natural materials, such as wood and straw, and it became famous for its striking design in the middle of the jungle, offering visitors an unusual experience very close to nature and local wildlife. Neil Young used the Game Boy camera to create the cover and artwork for his album Silver and Gold. The photos were taken by his daughter Amber. The famous McDonald's McRib sandwich, which is sometimes sold for a limited time, contains 70 different ingredients, 34 of them in the bun, including a compound called azodicarbonamide that is used in the manufacture of yoga mats. There is a law in India that requires doctors to write everything in clear capital letters. This is to avoid mistakes that could put people's health at risk. YouTube surpasses 2,500,000,000 monthly active users worldwide. In comparison, Facebook is around 3 billion. Instagram surpasses 2 billion, X has around 500 million, and Snapchat surpasses 700 million active users. No one reached the summit of Mount Everest in 2015. This had not happened since 1974. That year, a strong avalanche caused by an earthquake in Nepal forced the cancellation of the climbing season and required the evacuation of many mountaineers from base camp, making the season one of the most tragic in the mountain's history. There is a hotel in Japan where all the staff members are robots. The receptionist is an animatronic velociraptor. Before 1950, doctors believed that exercise was dangerous for people over 40 years old. Now, the opposite is believed. Moderate exercise is good at any age. People who tend to buy chrome accessories for their cars are more likely to not pay their debts on time. This connection was found by some bored individuals studying credit card purchasing statistics. Jackie Chan is known for being an actor who implements martial arts in his movies, but he is also a singer. He has released 20 albums since 1984 that have been very popular in Asia. The Bob Marley song No Woman No Cry is actually No Woman No Cry in Jamaican. This translates to No Woman Do Not Cry. And the song is about growing up in the ghetto and reassuring a woman that things will get better, so do not cry. According to scientists from the Lujan Neutron Scattering Center at Los Alamos National Laboratory, the largest gold crystal in the world was found years ago in Venezuela. It is the size of a golf ball and weighs half a pound, and it is estimated to be worth $1.5 million. There is a theory that claims human intelligence may have arisen thanks to a random mutation in which the jawbones of our ancestors became shorter, allowing the brain to grow more in circumference. The pirate ship that appears in the movie The Goonies was built without the child actors seeing it. This was done so they could film their first reaction to it. However, when they finally saw it, they were so surprised that they started swearing. So the shot could not be used and they had to film an acted reaction. Dog blood types are different from those found in humans. In fact, there are 6 main blood types, but surprisingly, 42% of dogs have the same type, which is universal. In Russia, there is a temple of all religions that serves as a peaceful combination of different cultures. There should be places like that everywhere. When celebrity reveals are done on the show The Masked Singer in its different versions and editions, most of the audience is asked to leave the set. This is done to prevent spoilers from being posted online. Leonardo DiCaprio has that name because when his pregnant mother was standing in front of a painting by Leonardo da Vinci, she felt the future actor's first kick. It is illegal to die in the Houses of Parliament in London. In 2013, Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg spent around $30 million buying all the houses next to his mansion to ensure his privacy. Only 6 signatures of William Shakespeare are believed to be original, even though his name is spelled differently in all of them, and none matches how it is written today. Bamboo is the fastest growing plant in the world. It can grow up to 36 inches in a single day. Some species reach this speed under ideal conditions, which makes it a widely used resource due to its rapid renewal and sustainability. Since there is no atmosphere and therefore no wind on the moon, it is believed that the footprints left by astronauts during the Apollo missions could remain intact for up to 100 million years. It is possible to see a rainbow as a complete circle if certain conditions are met. They are usually seen from airplanes or very tall buildings. Director Stanley Kubrick was inspired by a work by photographer Diane Arbus for casting the twins in the movie The Shining. These characters do not exist in Stephen King's original book. Hitler carried out the largest anti-smoking campaign that has ever existed during the 1930s and 1940s. Campaigns organized by basketball player Yao Ming's foundation have helped reduce shark fin soup consumption in China by nearly 50%, protecting the species. The inventor of the laser, Gordon Gould, had to fight with the patent office and with laser manufacturers for 38 years over ownership of his invention, until he was finally recognized. The millionaire Wellington Burt, who died in 1919, left one of the strangest wills of all time. He forbade any inheritance to his children and grandchildren, and it was not until the year 2011 that 12 descendants inherited $110 million. In Germany, there is an educational initiative called Rent a Jew, in which Jewish individuals voluntarily participate in meetings and talks with schools and communities to answer questions and break down prejudice. The goal is to encourage dialogue and combat anti-Semitism through direct contact and open conversation. In Canada, it is illegal to carry a product designed for personal protection, including pepper spray. Ozzy Osbourne donated $10,000 to a music school for underprivileged children after he saw their performance of the song Crazy Train. Venus is the only planet that rotates in the opposite direction of the others in the solar system. Several movie theaters in Denmark put Danish subtitles on Danish films. They do this because it can be difficult to understand the different dialects. Most characters in Toy Story movies do not blink both eyes at the same time. This is used in animation with characters who are clumsy or awkward, but Pixar uses it to remind people that they are toys. At the first concert of the band Weezer, they were the opening act for actor Keanu Reeves, specifically for the band Dogstar, in which Reeves played bass. Actor Keanu Reeves's name means cool breeze in Hawaiian, and it is not a stage name, it is his real name. In fact, one day his agent gave him the worst advice of all time when he tried to convince him to change his name to Chuck Spadina so it would sound more commercial. Bill Clinton met United States President John F. Kennedy when he was a teenager in 1963 during a school visit to the White House. This inspired him to pursue a career in politics, and 30 years later, he also became president. Usain Bolt is capable of reaching a speed of 27 miles per hour. He is almost as fast as a cat. For a short time in the 1970s, Iron Man's helmet included a nose, something that caused ridicule among comic book readers. This later became a published story in which Tony Stark decides to redesign it after attending a comic convention and being mocked. In 2014, a homeowner in England accidentally left a guest bedroom window open for 3 months. This allowed about 5,000 wasps to get in and build a massive nest in the bed. The wasps chewed through about 8 inches of mattress and pillows, but pest control at least managed to save the blanket. Damn hungry wasps. A donkey's eyes are conveniently positioned so that it can see all 4 of its legs at the same time. Ants use war strategies when they fight other ant colonies. For example, they first send the weakest ants into battle. The flesh of salmon is pink because of their specific diet of crustaceans. However, this color is not present in salmon raised on special farms, so many producers usually add a special dye to their feed to achieve this particular shade. A funnel cloud is only considered a tornado when it actually touches the ground. While it remains suspended in the air, it is still a funnel cloud, although it can be just as dangerous if it is close to the surface. When it finally makes contact, it begins to lift dust and debris, becoming visible in its full extent and being officially classified as a tornado by meteorologists. The Burj Al Arab in Dubai is the only 7-star hotel in the world. However, the hotel management never uses this term to describe itself. The notion was introduced by a British journalist who described the Burj Al Arab as something beyond anything she had ever seen and called it a 7-star hotel. Sean Connery turned down the role of Gandalf in the trilogy of The Lord of the Rings. He said that although he read the book and the script, he did not understand anything at all. According to reports, the offer included a percentage of the profits from the movies, which could have meant hundreds of millions of dollars. The role was ultimately played by Ian McKellen and became one of the most memorable characters of the saga. Erwin Schrödinger never believed that a cat could be alive and dead at the same time. He created his experiment only as satire, criticizing the Copenhagen interpretation of quantum mechanics. The famous bird from the Twitter logo has a name. It is called Larry. It was named after National Basketball Association player Larry Bird, since his last name means bird. He played for the Boston Celtics, the team from the hometown of Social Network co-founder Biz Stone. The Ferris wheel, juicy fruit gum, and Aunt Jemima pancake mix were introduced to the world at the Chicago World's Fair in 1893. In 2013, a bank employee in Germany fell asleep on his keyboard pressing the number 2. He accidentally transferred 222,222,222 euros in a transaction that should only have been 62 euros. Since the mid-2000s, Bill Gates has donated tens of billions of dollars through his foundation to support global health, vaccination, and development programs. These initiatives have significantly contributed to reducing child mortality and preventable diseases in different countries. For the most prestigious tennis tournaments, The balls are stored in special refrigerators that keep them at a temperature of 68 degrees Fahrenheit, because variations can affect how they bounce. 60 million years ago, penguins the size of humans existed. In 2019, fossilized remains of this species were found in New Zealand. The British Empire once had a territory larger than the entire African continent. The Russian fighter jet Sukhoi Su-34 is so large that the pilots can lie down to rest inside, and it is also equipped with a kitchen station and a bathroom. Alaska has the longest coastline in the United States, at 6,640 miles long. This is due to its vast size and the large number of islands, bays, and fjords that make up its territory. In fact, its coastline is so extensive that it exceeds the total of all the other states combined, making it one of the most complex and extensive coastal regions in the world. Tashirojima is an island in Japan that is also known as Cat Island. The population of stray cats there is greater than the human population. Cats are considered symbols of good luck by the residents, and their presence has helped attract tourists, becoming a distinctive feature of the place. In reality, Frankenstein is the mad doctor, and the monster is simply known as the monster, although some people do not know this. The character was created by Mary Shelley in the novel published in 1818. In the story, Victor Frankenstein is the scientist who brings the creature to life, but over time, popular culture began using his surname to refer to the monster as well. Some people describe certain edible worms as having a flavor similar to fried bacon when they are roasted or fried. In different cultures, they are part of traditional diets and provide protein, fats, and minerals. Less than 15 years ago, fewer than 500 people knew how to ski in China. Currently, more than 5 million Chinese people visit ski resorts each year. The true cause of Mozart's death is not known with certainty. According to researchers, there may be 118 possible causes, ranging from influenza to mercury poisoning. Reykjavik in Iceland actually heats its sidewalks and streets to keep them free of ice and snow. Since they began installing these heated roads more than a decade ago, they have enjoyed significant savings by not having to spend taxpayer money on snow removal services. John Malkovich wrote and starred in the movie 100 Years, the movie you will never be able to see. It was completed in 2015 and immediately locked and sealed in a tamper-proof box. It has no key or combination and is programmed to open automatically on November 18, 2115, though it is probably already being sold illegally in Tepito. Walt Disney liked to visit his amusement parks disguised in old clothes and a farmer's hat. He would go on the rides and measure the time to make sure employees followed the correct procedures. To this day, the Titanic is the only transatlantic ship that has sunk because of an iceberg. Levi's 501 jeans require 37 different sewing operations during their manufacturing process. The son of the writer J.R.R. Tolkien, Christopher Tolkien, has stated several times that he hates the movies The Lord of the Rings, adaptations of his father's books. Australian actress Nicole Kidman was actually born in Hawaii, while her parents were temporarily in the United States on educational visas. They named her Hokulani, which means Star of Heaven in Hawaiian. In Brazilian prisons, inmates can reduce their sentence by up to 48 days each year for every book they read, including submitting a detailed report. According to a study from 1994, women who take birth control pills blink on average 32% more often than those who do not. The cause of this is unknown. Actor Liam Neeson claimed that he was already too old to make action movies when he was offered the lead role in the movie Taken, describing his part as a guy who beats up half of Europe to find his daughter. Even so, he accepted it, and it later became a success and a trilogy. San Francisco uses urine-repellent paint to protect public walls from bodily fluids. It causes urine to splash back onto the offender. This was inspired by Hamburg, Germany, which painted all the walls of its city with this repellent and saw public urination decrease significantly. This is Tyson, a tiny dog considered one of the smallest in the United Kingdom. When he was a puppy, he could practically fit in the palm of a hand, with an incredibly small size that made him look almost like a toy. His small body and delicate appearance made him a true sensation. During a period in the 1990s, 50% of all CDs produced in the world were the free samples that America Online handed out on the street. The company mailed discs, gave them away in magazines, and distributed them in supermarkets to attract new users to its internet service. It is estimated that over the years, billions of these promotional discs were distributed. In France, there is a vending machine that, instead of selling junk food, gives you short stories that can be 1, 3, or 5 minutes long. It exists to promote reading and to give people a break from social media. So far, there is not a single documented health problem in any person from consuming genetically modified foods. On the contrary, by making foods not require antibiotics or pesticides thanks to genetic modification, they are less harmful. Beethoven always dipped his head in cold water before composing music. The composer believed that this habit stimulated his mind and helped him concentrate. He had many peculiar routines related to his creative process, such as counting exactly 60 coffee beans to prepare each cup he drank while working. Actress Gwyneth Paltrow has said many times that she hates the movie Shallow Hal from 2001, especially the scenes where she wore a suit to simulate obesity. She says that the first time she tried on the costume, nobody looked her in the eyes. In 2017, Damien Chazelle, the director of the movie La La Land, became the youngest winner of the Academy Award for Best Director at 32 years of age. In 1503, Christopher Columbus became stranded in Jamaica along with his crew while sailing. Knowing that a lunar eclipse was approaching, he warned the local people that if they did not feed them, he would make the moon disappear. One day, George Harrison decided to write a song using the first words he found when opening a book at random in his parents' house. That is how he found the phrase, "gently weeps," which inspired him to write the hit, "While My Guitar Gently Weeps." Some sharks can live up to 100 years, although most of them live from 20 to 30 years in the wild. Some species, such as the spiny dogfish, live well beyond 100 years. In fact, the Greenland shark can exceed 200 years, making it one of the longest living vertebrates known, growing slowly in cold, deep waters where its metabolism is lower. A recent study found that a nap of 45 to 60 minutes during the day could improve learning and memory up to 5 times. Researchers say that a short nap at the office or at school is enough to significantly improve learning success. Haiti and Liechtenstein had very similar flags. The two countries did not realize this until they met at the Olympic Games in 1936. Around 70% of all spices produced in the world come from India, which exports them but is also one of the countries that uses the most seasonings in its food. The creator of Sherlock Holmes, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, helped in real life to solve 2 cases of wrongly accused people, managing to get them released from prison. The core of the sun has a temperature of 15 million degrees. In that extreme region, nuclear fusion reactions occur in which hydrogen is transformed into helium, releasing enormous amounts of energy. That energy takes thousands of years to reach the surface, and finally, about 8 minutes to travel from the sun to Earth in the form of light. Because of the famous Y2K virus, a computer charged a customer $91,000 for returning a movie he had rented 100 years later. He did not have to pay them. Instead, the store offered him a free rental because of the error. The problem occurred because some systems recorded years with only 2 digits, which caused incorrect calculations in dates and payments when the year changed from 1999 to 2000. Billboards have been banned in Vermont since 1968 to preserve the natural beauty of the state. This law also helped promote tourism and maintain cleaner visual landscapes, making it one of the few places in the United States with such strict regulation. The colossal squid has the largest eyes ever studied in the animal kingdom, measuring nearly 11 inches, which is approximately the same size as a volleyball. In fact, researchers believe they may be the largest eyes that have ever existed. These enormous eyes allow it to detect very faint light in the depths of the ocean, including flashes produced by other animals, giving it an advantage in identifying predators or prey in an almost completely dark environment. In Northern Ireland, in addition to English, Irish is an official language. Despite this, there are more people who speak Polish in this country than Irish. There is a small area in the Pacific Ocean where rockets and space stations that are no longer needed are disposed of. This place is known as the Spacecraft Cemetery. It is preferred for dropping these objects because it is near the point farthest from any landmass. The sand tiger shark exhibits a unique reproductive behavior in which, inside the womb, only one of the embryos fully develops. As it grows and develops its early teeth, it feeds on the other embryos, which result in only the strongest being born. It is a clear example of survival of the fittest. In 2014, Japanese designer Akihiro Mizuuchi created edible chocolate Legos that were actually functional. He even printed the Lego logo on each block for for those of us who want to be creative and obese. The American magnate J.P. Morgan once offered $100,000 to the person who could tell him why his face was so red. No one could solve the mystery. Over time, it is believed that the most probable cause was rosacea, a chronic skin condition that causes visible redness on the face, and that at that time was poorly understood by medicine. Only 30 of the 4,600 species of cockroaches live in habitats where humans live. The vast majority inhabit jungles, deserts, or forests, and fulfill important ecological functions, such as decomposing organic matter. The few species associated with homes are highly adaptable, resilient, and reproduce quickly, which explains their disproportionate reputation compared to the rest. A man named Jonathan Lee Riches holds the Guinness World Record for being the person who has filed the most lawsuits, with a total of 2,600. Skunks are actually immune to snake venom. This allows them to face certain snakes without suffering the usual deadly effects, making them opportunistic predators. Although they are not completely invulnerable to all species, their resistance gives them an advantage in dangerous encounters, especially when searching for food in areas where snakes are common. The production of Nutella consumes approximately 25% of the world's hazelnut harvest. At least 10% of that comes from me. Most of these hazelnuts are grown in countries like Turkey, which leads global production, showing the enormous global impact of this popular product. In an average household in Japan, more than 10 hours of television are watched per day. Japanese television. Do not try to understand it. Just love it. Many programs include extravagant contests, strange physical challenges, and very exaggerated visual humor. This particular style has attracted international attention for years, and several formats have been adapted in other countries. The entire 1985 game Super Mario Bros. Takes up only 40 kilobytes of memory. A single frame of this video takes up more memory, and there are about 30 each second. Singer Lady Gaga always hired ghost hunters to check every hotel room she stayed in before she arrived, until one day she decided to buy her own ghost hunting equipment. She once declared that a ghost named Ryan followed her everywhere. Both Demi Lovato and Selena Gomez were on the television show Barney and Friends when they were children. In fact, the old friends were constantly shown together dancing and singing on screen. Gorillas can catch the flu and other diseases directly from humans. In South Korea, airplanes are prohibited from taking off and landing during the annual university entrance exams to ensure there are no distractions. It is a very important date for students. Kim Jong-nam is the older brother of Kim Jong-un and was supposed to be the successor of Kim Jong-il. However, he fell out of the line of succession when he tried to use a fake passport to enter Disneyland in Japan. I cannot blame him. It is a place of wonder and magic. All citizens of Great Britain have to pay a television license each year, equivalent to $230 as a tax. This is to support the BBC, the public television channel that does not have advertising in its programming. A song called Circus Gallop was created specifically to test automatic pianos and is impossible for a human to play. But with enough patience and dedication, 5 people on the same piano can play it almost the same. Or one person with 10 hands could also do it. The genetic marks left by a traumatic experience in mice are inherited by at least 2 subsequent generations. According to Matt Groening, The Simpsons would be in their 1010 season when Fry was unfrozen in Futurama in the year 2999. When he made this joke, The Simpsons were only in their 10th season. Recently, the series was renewed for seasons 35 and 36. The Goliath tigerfish is the largest of the tigerfish clan and can be found in the Congo River Basin. In fact, it is so large that it is known to eat small crocodiles and has attacked humans on several occasions. Death by giant fish. It has extremely sharp teeth and great strength, making it one of the most feared freshwater predators in Africa. Rats can fall from a 5-story building and not suffer major injuries. Their low body weight and ability to spread their legs reduce their terminal velocity, which lessens the impact. In addition, their flexible skeleton helps absorb the fall, although from greater heights they can also be injured. If the sun were the size of a cell, the Milky Way, which is the galaxy we are in, would be almost the size of Russia. This gives us an idea of how gigantic the universe can be. Since Iceland became a republic in 1944, only one case has been recorded in which the police caused the death of a person, which occurred in 2013. This fact reflects the exceptionally low level of violence in the country, where serious crime is rare and police, in most everyday situations, patrol without carrying weapons, relying more on prevention and social trust than on force. In 1979, Japan offered the Prime Minister of Great Britain, Margaret Thatcher, 20 female karate practitioners for her protection during an economic summit. The offer was rejected. The proposal was part of the security team prepared for the international meeting in Tokyo, but the British government decided to maintain its own diplomatic protection system. Until before 1800, dentures were made from the teeth of dead soldiers. In Europe, it was common to extract dental pieces from battlefields, especially after wars in the 18th century, to reuse them in prosthetics. These Waterloo teeth were valued for their relatively healthy condition. Over time, they were replaced by porcelain and other more hygienic and durable materials. In a meeting of heads of state in 1985, United States President Ronald Reagan asked Mikhail Gorbachev, leader of the Soviet Union, if he would be willing to become allies in the case of an alien invasion. Gorbachev said that he definitely would. At that time, those two countries did not get along at all. Each aircraft carrier of the United States military has a desalination plant that can convert up to approximately 396,000 gallons of seawater into purified drinking water each day. Every year, the Netherlands sends Canada 20,000 tulips as a form of gratitude for the help they provided during World War II. Cats actually sweat through their paws. Cats do have sweat glands, but their skin is covered in fur, so the amount of cooling that sweat can provide is minimal. The paw pads have the highest number of sweat glands, so they primarily sweat there. In reality, Walt Disney did not draw Mickey Mouse. He only came up with the concept and provided the voice for the character. The artist and animator who drew him was Ub Iwerks. During the times of the Roman Empire, life expectancy if you lived in a city was only between 20 and 30 years of age. Due to a lack of budget, Pablo Picasso's painting The Old Guitarist from 1903 was painted over another painting that depicted a woman in a field with a child next to a sheep and a bull. According to a study, crows show the ability of analogical reasoning. This means they can solve problems such as fish is to water as bird is to air. This type of reasoning emerges in humans between the ages of 3 and 4 years old. Huracan was known as the Mayan god of wind and storms. His name means one leg in the Mayan language, and the word hurricane was derived from his name. He appears in texts such as the Popol Vuh, where he is associated with creation and destruction, representing the unpredictable force of nature. Researchers in the United Kingdom have created a robotic rectum so that proctologists can practice their physical rectal exams. It allows medical professionals to learn without using real-life volunteers. I know that is much more convenient, but there is something inherently unsettling about a robotic backside. Great Britain declared war on Iceland on 3 occasions between 1956 and 1976 due to multiple disputes over fishing zones. This is known as the Cod Wars. Scientists from Junagadh University in India have extracted gold from the urine of rare indigenous breeds of cattle. They analyzed 400 gyr cows and found traces of ionized gold salts that they were able to isolate, precipitate, extract, solidify, and melt. Between 3 to 10 milligrams of gold per liter of urine. Sandwiches taste better when someone else makes them. Seriously. Psychologist Daniel Kahneman explains that this is because when we make our own sandwiches, we anticipate their taste and therefore consume them mentally beforehand, which makes us feel less hungry afterward. Marie Curie's notebook is still radioactive. Anyone who wishes to see it must sign a document assuming the risks. Her notebooks and documents were exposed for years to the radium and polonium that she herself investigated, so they continue emitting radiation. For this reason, they are kept inside special lead-lined boxes at the National Library of France. A traditional food from Nigeria, fufu, should not be chewed because it is considered offensive. It must be swallowed. It is made from yam, a tuber that is popular in many regions of the world. Mozart had a dirty mind. He once composed a piece in B-flat major called Leck mich im Arsch, which literally translates as lick my butt. A study conducted in 2013 indicated that less attractive people were more likely to suffer bullying in the workplace. Miley Cyrus's first job was cleaning the stage after her father's concerts. The country singer Billy Ray Cyrus paid her $10 per concert, and what she mostly had to do was pick up the underwear that fans threw. Dolphins sleep with one eye open. This happens because they rest only one half of their brain at a time, in a process called unihemispheric sleep. While one hemisphere sleeps, the other remains alert to control breathing and watch for possible threats, since they need to regularly surface to breathe air. If the sun were the size of a basketball in a scale model of the universe, the nearest star would be another basketball approximately 5,000 miles away. In December 2016, there were moments when the city of Chicago was colder than the surface of the planet Mars. On average, a tree is made up of 99% dead cells. Only 1% is alive. That percentage consists of the leaves, the tips of the roots, and the system that carries water to the top. Bats cannot walk. The bones in their legs are very weak. It is true that boiling vegetables causes them to lose nutrients. This happens because they contain water-soluble nutrients, such as vitamin C, B vitamins, and folic acid, which leach out of the food and remain in the water. The most profitable area of supermarkets is the checkout zone, where they place all the candy and chocolate, and you cannot resist buying something from there, even though you know they do it completely on purpose. Evil. The first message ever sent over the internet was in 1969, and it consisted of the letters LO. They were supposed to send the word login, but the computer crashed after the first two letters. At that time, the internet was nothing like we know it today, but the foundations were already being created. In the novel Forrest Gump, which the movie was based on, Forrest also joins NASA and goes into space. But when he returns, he lands on a deserted island full of cannibals and survives by defeating the tribe leader in a daily chess duel. This was already too much to include in the movie. If humans were able to hear frequencies lower than 20 hertz, we could hear our own muscles moving, and it would be very strange. In January 2013, Zimbabwe's Ministry of Finance announced that the country only had $217 in its bank account. Most luxury brands such as Louis Vuitton and Chanel destroy their products at the end of the year to prevent them from being sold at a discount. They have even been accused of environmental damage for burning merchandise.
If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like it and share it with your friends. Subscribe so you don't miss more interesting content. Leave your comments and click on any of these videos. See you next time.